So it's not just me, right? I don't think it's just me. It can't just be me. I can actually prove it's not just me. Sometimes I feel like it's just me, but I don't think it's just me. Okay, that's enough repeating myself. I think I've gotten past the threshold for how long you need to go without cursing in a YouTube video. So with all that out of the way, is it just me or is nobody fucking hiring? I graduated a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, and I'm still in the same job that I was doing during college to help pay for my tuition. And before I get too heated, because unlike the last one, I am going to kind of go off here, I will say I should count my blessings. I have a job, first of all. I'm not unemployed. And it's also a job that I don't hate. I have my days here and there, but overall, it's not bad. The work is doable, it's even really interesting and kind of intellectually stimulating at times. I get along with all my teammates. Really, the only thing I can't stand is that it's overnight. So I basically live life in reverse. I'm sleeping all day and then I'm up and doing everything that normal people would be doing at night. Oh, except shopping, because Walmart's not 24 hours anymore. It hasn't been since the lockdown happened, so yeah, sadness. I really did like it when they were 24 hours, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, at the very least, I'm not unemployed, and I guess that's good. Things could be worse. I still currently live with my family, so it's not like when things started going to shit, it's like, the market kind of caught me with my pants down, where I was living on my own and, maybe I would have gotten laid off, and then I have to figure out how to make ends meet while being unemployed or some shit like that. At the very least, I guess it's good that I'm not in a situation like that. Instead of being, at a really good high place and then falling to rock bottom, what actually happened was I never got to go anywhere to begin with, which I guess is somewhat better than the alternative. So yeah, graduated with a computer engineering degree. It's been about a year and a half. It'll be 2 years in several months, but yeah. In that span of time, I have sent about 300 applications. I kind of stopped counting after 300. And I guess over the course of 2 years, that really isn't a lot once you break it down. But I did kind of take the quality over quantity approach because I kept hearing from a lot of people that, if you go to LinkedIn, Indeed, or any of the job boards and you just hit the easy one-click apply, it isn't really as productive as it looks because even though it's easy to do that, it kind of just sends your resume into the void. And the likelihood that the recruiter or the HR person or whoever is looking over the resumes, the likelihood that they'll even see it is very small. You tend to get better results just even if you are going to use one of the job boards, it's still better to just go directly to the company's website and apply directly that way. So because, the one-click easy apply wasn't really as effective as I had initially thought, I didn't really do that much. Most of my applications was either going directly to the website, like I said before, kind of researching the company for a few days and then tailoring a resume specifically for that position, which I did do quite a bit. The place I currently work at has an engineering division, so I would look on their internal sort of job board, and if any engineering positions came up, I would apply to that. Or I was networking, the thing that's supposed to work better than all the other methods, where you try and find someone who knows someone who knows someone who's in the company you're trying to get into, and then you try and get in that way. And yeah, none of it worked. Speaking of which, since I mentioned networking, we need to talk about this whole, we'll just network more and just be more social, and, if you're having trouble doing that, then you probably just suck at talking to people. I have reached out to as many people as I could possibly think of, and to their credit, whether it's family, friends, friends of friends, friends of my parents, older professors, or, just anyone I could think of that I was in a reasonable amount of touch with. They did try to be helpful, but they were all either in the same situation themselves, or more commonly, I would say, they were willing to put in a good word for me only to find out that the company they were working for either wasn't hiring, they were freezing the position, or it was already going to be filled by someone else who kind of got in through nepotism, but their connections were just a little stronger than mine, so they're getting the job. And it was only posted publicly because the company legally has to give everybody else a chance, even though everyone else doesn't really have as much of a chance as they think, but you get what I mean. It has to still be done as a formality. Another reason also why it's just 300 applications, air quotes, is because honestly, it's hard to find stuff that I even qualify for. I'll hear about people who manage to send as much as, thousands of applications over several months, and then maybe that gets them an offer after all of that effort. Like, you shouldn't even have to be doing so much applying in the first place just to get a job, but I guess that's where we are now, what can you do? But then a part of me is also like, where are you even finding thousands of jobs to apply to in the first place? Like, sometimes, I try and do at least a few a day, and sometimes it's hard to even find 10, assuming I'm trying to match the qualifications at least to some reasonable degree, because then, from the other end of the situation, it's like, the hiring sections of companies will also start to bitch about, well, people who clearly aren't qualified for, some of these roles are applying. And, yeah, I get that, but at the same time, it's like, you have to up your numbers to increase your chances, but to do that, you are going to have to sort of, shotgun your resume and your information. You're going to have to cast your net wide, and that means you may have to maybe be a little more lenient on what you may consider yourself qualified for and what you don't consider yourself qualified for. You can apply to a lot of jobs, like a lot, and then still be qualified for all of them so you don't waste frickin' HR's time either. You kind of can't have it both ways, especially not now. I'm kind of having a hard time putting it into exact words, but I hope you kind of see what I'm saying. If you've sent 2,000 applications over a period of a few months, you're probably not qualified for all of those. But if you only apply to stuff you are qualified for, you're probably going to have a much lower number because of all the time it takes to, one, research the job, look into the company itself, tweak your resume to make sure it matches the description, write a cover letter. Honestly, I do it sometimes, but I haven't really found that cover letters significantly help or hurt my chances of getting the job. Generally, I'll only do cover letters if it's a job that I really want to put my best foot forward in, because I know I have a higher chance at getting it. For example, if someone refers me in, or if it's a job that I actually do know almost all of what's on the description and I kind of got it in the bag, I'm like, okay, I can totally do this, then I might write one. But if I'm just applying, I'm just trying to apply to get my volume of applications up, a lot of times, I don't even bother with the cover letter if it's optional, because let's say you spend half an hour writing up a cover letter, only for them to just either ghost you or send you an auto reject when you're done. You might as well have just not written one at all. And then two, all this applying, it does add up. Once you start doing this hundreds of times, dare I say thousands if you're one of those people and you've had to do that, all that time, it adds up. It's finding the job is another job in and of itself. But this whole thing on do you qualify or not, it's kind of a moot point anyway, because almost every entry-level job is asking for years of experience anyway. You're gonna have much experience, if any at all, when you just came out of school. And it's not really, I guess it's not really a new issue. It's kind of like with the chicken and the egg. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Similarly, how do you get work experience if you need a job to get experience, but jobs don't want to hire you because you don't have experience, but you need the experience to get a job, but you can't get a job with that experience? You get what I mean? It's like a cycle. That's kind of always been there, but it's way worse now, especially if you're in tech, which, just my luck, what I majored in just so happens to be tech related. Lucky me. But, yeah, there were some layoffs, some time ago. So it's now this thing that was already an issue is now even a worse issue, because from the company's point of view, why would you hire a new grad if you have an entire sea of guys with 5+ years experience who just got laid off and you can just take one of them instead? Because, it is expensive to train new people and get them on board and stuff. It is kind of an investment. So it's yeah, from a business perspective, I understand what's going through their head in that moment, but it still sucks, But weapons, why haven't you mentioned internships yet? That's what internships are for. You're supposed to get an internship while you're in school, and that's supposed to help you get the work experience that you need so you don't face this problem when you get out and try to apply for jobs after you graduate. Okay, where do I even begin with this one? On paper, taken at face value, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. Like I said, although in a very mocking tone, but still, it does circumvent the chicken egg need job to get experience type of cycle. It does sort of break that. Or at least it should. As you might be able to tell, I'm about to tear into it. First of all, specifically when you hear this while in university, like you hear a professor say it, or you're at like a event or something and you hear maybe the dean says it, or you're at advising and your advisor says it, you're probably going to hear it the most often while you're in college. Because I don't even think I heard about this side of it while I was in high school. In high school, they were just focused on getting us to go to college, which gets into a point I will make shortly. But when you are being pushed by your university to go do internships, and I'm not saying, if the opportunity presents itself and you're able to go, it's better than not going. But I'm just saying, when they heavily promote internships, because they usually, at least when I was in school, from my experience, they would straight up tell you, you may be working on this degree, but the degree is not going to be what helps you get the job. You need to get internships to get the experience, and that'll help you get the job. That's something I heard very frequently while I was in school. And I don't think they realized just how much they were telling on themselves when they said that. Because if it's the internships that help you get the job that you want, what the fuck is the degree for? Why aren't they just trying to push people straight into internships or similar types of work straight out of high school then, instead of telling students to go spend thousands of dollars to go to university or whatever, only for that to not actually be what helps them get the jobs they want. They have to do this other thing. And that's what I was going to get at too. The internships at this point, it's just the newest iteration of thing that we put in place to gatekeep people who already listened to us about what we told them to do before, but now we need them to do this new thing so they can show how committed they are. I never did manage to get any internships while I was in school, which I'm sure isn't doing me any favors. It's probably making my situation 10 times harder, especially when the job market just seems like it's in a state where even experienced people are having a hard time, let alone me. And it's not that I didn't try to get any while I was in school. It just never really ended up happening. I went to every career fair that they offered. I kind of put my best foot forward. I managed to strike up a good conversation at any of the booths I went to, which is why I don't believe that a lack of social skills is what's holding me back, because I don't think anybody really felt visibly uncomfortable talking to me. I want to say, yes, I am very introverted, so when it comes to talking to other people, at least in person, I do have to try and sometimes kind of put on somewhat of a show, somewhat of an act to, appear social, if that makes sense. Otherwise, not that I'll come across as bad or creepy, but I may kind of come across as maybe boring or, just not very exciting, and people don't really kind of like hanging around with that either, if you get what I mean. But all that aside, the conversations I did hold at the career fair, they went pretty well. It seemed like the people I spoke to, liked me, or at the very least, they didn't mind talking to me for lengthy periods of time. And actually, let's talk about career fairs. I don't know if this is just my school or if it's just the standard across the entire US university college system, but at least for me, from my experience, even though career fairs are so important, because as far as searching for internships and opportunities, yes, it's obviously going to be a little easier for you if, the people who are looking to hire, they can put a face to the application. If you ideally had a really good conversation with them and they remember you, they're more likely to pull your application when you apply. So I'm not doubting the importance of something like a career fair. The problem is, and if I'm missing something, feel free to correct me, I really think career fairs should have had their own dedicated days. Because, at least where I was, career fairs, when they were going on, everyone still had to go to class. And also, I don't know if it's just how things were set up or if I was just unlucky, but I would always have at least a test or two on career fair day. So it's not even like skipping class for the career fair if I wanted to stay longer was an option. You know, it's not like I could say, well, I know we're probably not going to do anything important in frickin' circuits class today, so I guess I can afford to miss it and instead like hit up some more booths and maybe see if I can, land an internship or a co-op or whatever. My typical day when the career fair was going on is I usually did have classes in the morning, but let's say under rare circumstances I might not have. I would go there first thing. I'd maybe be able to stay there for about an hour. I'd have to go to class. If I had a test, which usually I did, I'd probably have to spend some time, doing the finishing touches, my last bit of studying for that and mentally preparing myself for that. Maybe I get to go back to the career fair again for another hour or two in between that time. You get where I'm going with this? Like, I kind of had to weave the career fair into my school day. And the problem with that was, it was doable, but I think it really did kind of kneecap how much ground I could cover while I was in the career fair. Because it also means, too, you have to do some planning. You have to kind of figure out, okay, which companies am I going to talk to and which companies am I not going to talk to? Because you're not going to be able to talk to all of the companies you want to, especially not like the bigger companies. So, for example, like Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, I don't think I ever even spoke to any of those companies at any of the career fairs I had gone to, because I would go there and the line to talk to the people at those booths for those specific companies, they were long. I'd see people it'd be an hour sometimes before they finally get to walk up and talk to the frickin' Google people or the Microsoft people or whatever, because I guess those companies were really popular, so everyone wanted to work for them. And then I kind of had to weigh the cost and the benefit, because I'm okay, I stand for an hour and, spend my entire time slot waiting to speak to the Microsoft people, only for me to be one out of 2,000 people that also want to work at Microsoft. What's the likelihood that they're going to pull my application? So actually, I would always spend my time hitting up the smaller companies, because they usually had shorter lines, so I could talk to more people, meaning, more people that put a face to my application, higher chance at getting some results. Not that I got any anyway, because usually what would happen is, even if I did strike up a good conversation with them, it would usually still just end with them handing me an iPad or a business card or one of those QR links and telling me to still apply online. I apply online and then nothing. So then my junior year starts. I make it past the interview stage for one particular summer internship that I applied to, and things looked pretty promising. It seemed like they were about ready to send me the offer and, let me in. This happened at the very beginning of 2020, and guess what also happened a few months later? Fucking Corona-chan. So yeah, because of that, the position was obviously canceled, and I unfortunately never got lucky enough to secure another internship after that. By the time things opened up, I was getting ready for graduation, and there was just a lot of other personal shit going on at the time too that really kind of kneecapped the amount of time to even adequately pursue an internship anyway. But I want to say a few more things about internships before I move on, because this video is already looking pretty long. First of all, and this kind of goes right back into the sort of university telling on itself, okay, if the internship is so important, then what's the degree for? Now, not all majors are made equal, but I can speak from my experience, and what I majored in. It was not an easy major by any stretch of the imagination. Now, it wasn't impossible. It wasn't this super, it's so difficult that you have to be frickin' Albert Einstein to pass or anything like that. It's definitely doable, but fuck me, it was a lot of work. It definitely wasn't the type of major where, you show up to class every other session, pretend to pay attention, frickin' party and fuck bitches all weekend, realize you didn't do your work and rush through it and get it done Sunday night, and then you still manage to pass with straight A's. It was not that type of party major by any stretch of the imagination. I still had free time here and there, but yeah, the coursework was difficult, is what I'm trying to say. So it's not I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs, the whole time, like waiting for them to just give me the degree. Like, I still had to work for that stupid piece of paper. You get what I mean? Really, when they gas up internships the way they do, what they're really saying is the work you're doing in school then is busy work. It's just there to frickin' basically stand in your way and give you something to fill your time up with, when you could have been using that time to do other things. Secondly, a lot of people, not going to say all, but a good chunk of people, especially when someone is struggling with regards to the job search and they're asking for advice, seem to be under this impression that internships are just thrown at students like free candy. And again, maybe it varies from area to area or student to student, but from my experience, hell no. They're pretty damn competitive too. And actually, if you ask me, I'd say it's just as difficult to land an internship as it is to get a job that's related to what you studied when you do graduate. And third, I saved the worst one for last. During my job search, I have seen not all, but more than a few applications that will explicitly state either in the description or during the questions that they don't count internships towards years of experience. Now, like I said, I don't see it often, but the fact that I'm seeing it in the first place is kind of infuriating, because that's literally the whole point of interning in the first place, to get experience while you're still a student, so you'll have some experience to offer when you graduate. Like, it gets even worse when you realize that some internships are unpaid. Unpaid, for fuck's sake. So, like, what would be the point in doing those then? The fact that some companies have the balls to even ask that in the first place. Like, this better not become something normal. Like I said, I don't see it often, but when I do, it sure is a sight to behold. So right now, I guess I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place, because I'm not good enough to break into the field that I studied for. And I think I kind of have a pretty good idea of what I want to do with my degree too, but, good luck, me trying to find any positions willing to take me that don't already have like someone else with more experience that they could go with instead. It's not even at a point where I don't think I can do the work. It's just, there's just too many people out there that are better than me. And I'm not saying that to put myself down. I'm just saying that as an observation of reality. And the only way for me to get better than them isn't available to me, so I'm kind of stuck. Now, I know you're probably thinking, okay, well, just go work at Target or go work at Starbucks or wherever, do like food or retail or one of the, quote unquote, lower end jobs. I'm using air quotes there because, you still need people to do those jobs as well. I'm not saying those jobs aren't important, but I don't know why I'm explaining this. You get what I mean when I say that. I'm not saying it to belittle the people who do that. I'm just, saying it just to give a sense of scope to what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't think they're hiring either. Now, granted, as I am now, I'm actually overqualified for those jobs, which is stupid as fuck. But yeah, basically their mindset is like, let's say you apply and then you have like your degree and all the stuff you did on your resume. You hand them like your resume at its full power, for lack of a better term. In my case, it'd be my degree, a few extracurriculars, my projects that I've done throughout my academic career, because like I said, I didn't have an internship, as well as my senior project and any personal projects I worked on, sort of at home, like on my own. Like all that shit, they'd look at that, they'd be like, okay, you are overqualified for this thing, bro. Well, they wouldn't say that, but that's what they're thinking. Like, because their mindset is, okay, he's got all this stuff going for him. Like, as soon as his actual field, starts to want him, he's going to be out of there. We're not going to risk taking him. They call people like that, like flight risks or whatever. Which I don't even think that's relevant, because it's like, obviously, if they're applying to work for you, they clearly can't work in their industry at the moment for whatever reason. But another thing, like, do you have a frickin' crystal ball? Unless the job that they're applying for is frickin' fortune teller, how are you gonna know how soon they're gonna leave or whether or not they're gonna stay or whatever? You get what I mean? So usually whenever I do apply to jobs like that, I usually just leave the degree off, as you should. You kind of have to put yourself in a similar playing field as the place you're applying to, because you don't want to make the manager feel like you're going to replace them in no time. But even, doing that, the response rate for, your Targets, your Starbucks, your, retail and food stores and stuff like that, they're pretty damn picky too. Like, I haven't gotten a very good response rate from them either. I tried to look at other sort of fields, other industries, even a few trades, to kind of see like, okay, is there any of them that aren't, facing this problem with saturation? And from the looks of it, even though, obviously, especially with the rise of things like AI and stuff, the tech fields are definitely the ones being hit the hardest right now, if you ask me. But even outside of that, it seems like most all of the fields are is pretty much the same situation, just a different coat of paint, which kind of led me to the conclusion that I just don't think anyone's hiring. You have at least a fighting chance if you are already a professional and you have some experience under your belt. It's still going to be hard, but you might be able to make something work. But if you're, fresh out of school, just graduated, you're just trying to get started, you just need someone to take a chance on you, let's call it what it is. Yeah, you're kind of screwed, at least for the time being. And then, there's repeatedly being told, hey, listen, things will get better. Maybe. I've been hearing that since like early 2023 though. I don't know. At this point, I think some of y'all just on some hopium. Speaking of hopium, by the way, and drugs that may slow down your connection between the mind and body. Yeah, let's talk about the news media. Literally, like all of them, basically, saying unemployment's down and look at all the new jobs we added. Like I hear this shit like so often, and it kind of drives me up a wall because it's like, it's a half-truth. So many new jobs are being added in. Okay, are these jobs that pay a living wage? Are these full-time? Are they part-time? They're usually part-time or contract work. Like what types of jobs are being added in? There's definitely a quantity over quality at the moment. Then people have the gall to say no one wants to work. Bull fucking shit. I just went to a hiring event some time ago. The line started near the back of the building and it almost hit the front door again. But no one wants to work. And there were only like 20 something positions that they were going to fill that day anyway. And there was way more than 20 something people that showed up. And that trip specifically ended up being a waste anyway. I drove about 90 minutes to go attend that. It wasn't really a job fair, but it was somewhat of a hiring event where basically you apply for the job beforehand, you go there, and they were basically offering the positions on the spot. So they'll interview you on the spot, and then if they like you, they'll give you the job offer on the spot. And it turns out, due to the fact that they worded their job description rather vaguely, they had a very generalized description that made it sound like any engineering discipline was capable of doing the duties outlined in that job. And then I go there, and then when it's my turn and they call me up, they say, actually, they're not taking anyone who isn't a civil engineer for this. And I was kind of like, okay, but like, maybe you should have specified that in the description. And the frickin' guy who would have interviewed me under normal circumstances, because this was like a top-down decision, this was coming straight from HR. But he said he would have liked to interview me anyway. Like he said, he was really interested in interviewing me, but that just wasn't something they were going to budge on. And I kind of understand it, like, okay, if it is a civil engineering position, like them wanting exclusively civil engineers does make sense, because okay, if a building or a bridge falls apart, that's going to kill way more people than like a frickin' network failure or something like that. So if that's the nature of the job, then that's understandable. But that was not specified in the description when I applied to it online. Plus, it was a job that I had interviewed for before. The name of the position and the description was the same in everything, but the duties performed for the version I interviewed for was way different, and also actually made use of my technical skills a bit more. So I guess it kind of makes sense that they called me in for that. But I hope you get what I'm saying from this particular experience. They didn't specify in the description what exactly the job entailed. They gave a very generalized description. I drive all the way over there, and then they tell me the specifics of actually this is what you'll do. So yeah, I was very happy that I wasted my morning and half the afternoon doing that. And yeah, at this point, I just don't know what to do. That recent experience, it didn't really do my morale any favors. I'm actually at a point now where I haven't even applied to anything in a while, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, what's even the point? And like, yeah, technically, yes, there is a point. This is something I need to be doing because it's really all I can do. What else can I do? But it just, putting in all this effort for the 5% chance, I'm just making up numbers as I go along for this one, just for the 5% chance of getting an interview, and then the 2% chance that you'll actually get the job, if not less. Oh, that's another thing I forgot. Two things I forgot to talk about. First of all, interviews. Interviews now have multiple rounds, pre-screenings, mock interviews, freaking interviews for the interviews. Like, really? Is this where we're at now? Like, you actually have to go through that many rounds before the company can figure out if they like you, or if you're a good fit for the team, or if you know enough to do the job well, or whatever. Like, now, like, okay, if the CEO, for example, is stepping down and you're going to be the one replacing them, or you're applying to be like a Fed or something, like, okay, at least that one I understand having like a bunch of rounds for interviews because, you know, due to the nature of what you're going to be working on, or in the case of the CEO, just the amount of responsibility you're going to have, you know, they have to kind of put you through multiple rounds and really, you know, trying to see what you're all about before bringing you on board. Like, just due to the nature of maybe occupations like that, okay, I can understand that. But for like some frickin' desk admin job, I'm just using that as an example, like, you don't need to put someone through like 4 rounds of interviews to figure out if they can work an Excel spreadsheet right. Just saying. And then the other thing, ghost jobs. Yeah, those exist now too. You go through all that effort to apply somewhere, and they might not even be hiring for real. I don't have like an exact number, but like, I think there was an article, I forgot where it was, I don't even know how true it is. But with the way things are now, I can believe it, where it said like 80 or 81% of employers thought that posting, you know, what people have now dubbed ghost jobs was morally okay to do, which probably means a good number of jobs that you see posted are ghost jobs where they don't even intend to hire you. They're either going to ignore you, or if they do respond, they're just going to put you through a bunch of interviews only to reject you in the end because they weren't going to hire you anyway. They weren't going to hire anyone. Technically 3 things actually. And this is why I said at the beginning that I don't think it's just me. I have literally seen people either start new channels, or if they already had one, sort of pivot their channels in this direction. But I have seen like so many channels take off just off of this whole job business alone, where they've got video after video giving tips on, you know, how to get your resume better, how to interview better, or, you know, how to be better at the job search, or why things are the way they are, or whatever. Like, people have managed to make so much content off of this, and I'm like, it must be pretty bad if we're at a point where we can make money talking about how hard it is to make money. Like, how funny is that? Anyway, I think I've said more than enough about this topic. I think I might have spent maybe 10 minutes or so talking about something like this in a stream some time ago. Like, it just came up and I kind of went off. So I guess I've had this one in me for a while. I might have had to make this one just for my own sanity. But yeah, if you made it this far and you're still listening, you know, thanks, I guess. I don't have anything else to say. So you know the drill. Do leave a like if you enjoyed it. Sub to the channel if you haven't already. Well, if you like JRPGs and video games and sometimes anime, then do that. If you somehow came across this video by other means, I won't tell you to sub if you don't want to, but yeah, do all that. Special thanks to all channel members for your continued support. It is much appreciated, and I will see you all again very soon.